So, in today's live, I wanted to talk about pricing specifically when it comes to bakers. And so that's why today I'm going live to talk about something that all bakers, or especially beginner bakers, are doing that's really causing a loss for you. And you really want to stop doing this, right? So, if you join me live, say hi. I'm live on literally three platforms. I'm on Instagram, hi Instagram. I'm on TikTok, hi TikTok, and also I'm on YouTube. So make sure you say hi, hit them love bubbles. Let me know if you're a home baker, as you join me, right? So today, I want to talk about why most bakers are underpricing their cakes. And I also kind of want to talk about some of the ways you can fix it if you're looking to fix it. And if you're looking to make money, you should definitely be looking to fix this. So I'm curious, you can comment below whatever your story is. Have you ever underpriced your cakes or baked products and then realize that you made a loss, right? Have you ever done that? If you have, please comment below and let me know. Okay. So, on that same note, I'm going to share a story about a time made me. So, during my second year, so I've been doing business for a long time, guys, like about 10 years. During my second, not continuously, by the way, I've been pausing. I've paused at one point twice, 2 years. So during my second year of doing business, I learned a very expensive lesson, right? And actually, that's the time I closed my business. I kind of had to find a job. So I started selling commercial buns or scones in my small bakery, and I didn't do proper costing. As I'm selling, 3 months down the line, a baker visits me, and I never forgot this baker, and I never even kept in touch. I'm not sure what happened, but she walked in, tells me her story, and then goes, right? And she had told me her story about how she had started doing cupcakes for shops and then sat down and done costing and found out that it's actually a loss making thing. And so she had stopped. And she was just trying to figure out, like, should she close business or should she continue? Because it wasn't making any sense. And so I started thinking to myself, like, wow, I actually haven't done costing for my buns or scones, right? And so if you're in Kenya, you know the type of buns I'm talking about. You sell them to shops like a dozen. The shop sells one at a time, and then you make a small profit out of that scone, which sometimes is very, very small. So when I went home, I actually decided, let me do my costing for these cones. When I did the costing, this is 3 months after I've been selling them, I discovered that for each packet that I'm selling, I am making a loss of 60 shillings. To give you context, I was actually selling 10 packets a day, right? And each packet is making a loss of 60 shillings. So I'm making a loss of 600 a day. If you were to do that math and figure out in a month how much of a loss I was making, which is like 26 days, I was making a loss of 15,600 shillings, y'all. I mean, it was terrible. Hi, Max. So I decided that I needed to stop that. But unfortunately, it was, still late because in the end, I had to close the shop, find a job, pay debts, all that stuff. So I found out that was one of the most expensive lessons that I learned, that you have to do proper costing, because if you don't, it's going to cost you money. And that's how it ended up costing me money. So today I want to talk about some of the things people are doing, kind of how to fix it, because you don't want my story where you have to close your business because, what I'm saying, it's not working out. So if you're a small scale baker, especially home bakers, they do this a lot, right? And I know I've been a home baker. Please, please, please sit down, do accurate costing and pricing for your cakes, for your cupcakes, cake pops, whatever it is you're doing. Sit down and do the costing, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did. Really quick intro. My name is Maureen Kamari. I'm a professional baker and a cake artist. I have been doing this for over a long time, actually. I've been in the food industry for 9 years, and then I got into the baking industry since 2012. I started by baking and selling things. Then later on, I started teaching individuals how to bake, decorate. I also participate in various training and industry events. My business is called Baking with Amari, but I also have 3 brands. Baking with Amari, chiffon cakes by Amari, which is where we sell specific types of cakes. And then Baking for Profit program, which is where I share baking for profit advice. In my business, we offer baking and cake decoration classes. So if you're in Nairobi, you can join. Also, I do online classes if you're not able to come physically. We also sell recipe ebooks, and I offer baking for business masterclasses periodically. Our location is Ngong Road in Nairobi. We are at Arcades Discount Mall, shop number 52 on the ground floor. This is next to the Greenhouse Mall for those of you in Nairobi. Now, getting into the topic for today is I wanted to talk about the mistakes that bakers make and why they underprice. So, the first reason most bakers are underpricing is because they copied their prices. They didn't sit down, they were too lazy, or they don't know. Most people don't know what to do. And so they sit down and they copy other bakers' prices without doing their own calculation. Now, this is very dangerous. This is why. Number one, if you copy, most people tend to copy supermarkets, and I don't know why. If you copy supermarkets, you're not purchasing ingredients the same way they're purchasing ingredients. You need to remember that. Secondly, even if it's another baker who's been there for a while, you're possibly still not having the same expenses that that baker is having. You're still maybe not buying your flour in bales like that baker is doing, right? You also haven't captured all your costs. You could find out that maybe your costs are even higher than the other baker, right? So what you want to do is make sure you are capturing all the costs in calculation for your business, not for somebody else's business, right? And usually that's a trick that most people don't realize, especially when I sit down and teach people how to actually cost and price. That's the thing. You don't know the cost that I'm using, and you've copied my price and you've assumed that we have similar prices and costs. So make sure you don't do that, right? And how do you fix this? Simple. Calculate your costs based on your actual direct and indirect costs. Do not copy other people, right? Second reason why bakers are underpricing, and it's a very big mistake, is they ignore indirect expenses. Now, this is very unpopular, but there is a method people have of costing that just drives me nuts, by the way. People tell you, do the ingredients of the cake and then do times 3. That's inaccurate costing because you might be shocked to find that you have other costs that may be higher, right? And you wouldn't know if you just sat there, did your cost for baking and did times 3. So what I would tell you is please stop assuming things. Stop doing my ingredients times 3. I'm good to go. That's not a very accurate. Now, that's a good way to start. Like hobby bakers start that way, and that's okay, and I understand it. But please, let's stop guessing and hypothesizing on our costs. Start doing the accurate costing of the thing, right? So again, please realize if you're a baker, for those of you, by the way, who don't know how to do costing and pricing, I just want to mention something. Realize if you're a baker, you don't cost and price like supermarkets. You know, supermarkets will buy something, add a percentage, and then that's it. So realize baking is a manufacturing process, which means you buy a raw product, you do something to it with your labor, and then something new comes up. So that costing tends to be a little different than just buying something and adding a percent, and that's it. So what you want to do is, first and foremost, you want to identify the 2 types of costs you have. First type of cost is direct costs. These are costs that are directly related to making the cake. This means without this cost, the cake wouldn't be there. This is your ingredients. The person, which is you, right? The baker, the labor of the baker. This would be, just other direct costs that are related to the making of your product. After that, get the indirect costs. So these are the business operation costs that you don't need them to make the cake, but you definitely need them to run your business. Some people call these operational costs, right? You call these operational costs. And so what you want to do is find out what your direct cost is, find out what your indirect cost is, and then put those together. So what most bakers are doing, they're finding the direct cost, some of them, and then they're like, that's it. And then they maybe do times 3, and that's it. And that's a problem, right? That's a problem. So you want to make sure that you include all the costs that are related to your baking business. Every last one. Here's an example. Every time I do a costing class, people will be shocked that I'll tell you to put something like Wi-Fi or internet. People will be shocked when I tell you to do something like, what do you call it? Airtime. I even put soap. I'll put their soap and cleaning detergents, and people are surprised. But that is the cost of doing business. Your business doesn't only have some things. There is things that you wouldn't buy if you didn't have this business, even as a home baker, right? Or some people tell me I don't pay rent, but they pay rent for their house, and they use the water in their house, and they're using the electricity, but they're not accounting for it. Just because you live there doesn't mean that you're possibly using more electricity and more water because of the fact that you're actually a home baker. So you have to account for these costs so that you actually run a business or you're running an expensive hobby. Third mistake, and this is a very popular one. Third reason why bakers are undercharging, due to fear of getting no customers or losing customers, right? And I completely understand, especially if you're a beginner, I completely understand this fear. But I just want to tell you guys that if you're doing business, you don't want to be providing to people. And so you cost lower than you should. That's what you're doing. You're a charity organization, and you don't want to do that. You understand the value of your cake. You understand the value of what you're doing. Then pick a niche, pick a segment in the market that you know people are looking for these things. They understand the value of the thing. You don't have to convince them why your price is this way, right? Another thing is that because you've picked your niche, you understand the type of customer you should have, which means you're going to attract the right customer. You're not going to lower your prices because you're fearful. You're going to actually attract the right person who's willing to pay for that thing, because there is that customer who's willing to pay for that thing. As long as you've done market research and you're selling something that people want, people are actually going to pay for it, especially if you're a home maker who's making something that's very good. It tastes good. They can see it's aesthetically pleasing. They're willing to pay for it. And many bakers who have started as home bakers and grown have shown that. You just have to price accordingly and sell the thing to the right person, right? Here's what I tell people, because people are like, oh, I'm a beginner. What do I do? There's pricing strategies that you can use as a baker and still make profit, right? Even if your profit margin is lower, there's a way you can start low and then increase. And these are some of the strategies that I tell people about, especially when I'm doing my online costing class, which I'm about to tell you people about. So before you start selling really high margins, you can still make money, but still make some profit. And then over time, as people get to know you in the market, increase your prices. Just stop selling at a loss for years and years and years, saying that you're afraid of chasing clients. Why are you giving away money? You'd rather chase those clients and keep clients who are willing to pay you. Doesn't that make more sense? If not, again, you could have started a baking NGO instead, right? So my point is, please start making profit at least a little if you're a beginner or you're afraid, and then start increasing. And there's ways that you can do this. You can cost and price a certain way as you market and brand your business. And then as you grow, you start increasing prices. I've done this. Multiple people have done this. Okay. And this is a lesson, by the way, it's a specific lesson I'm covering in my upcoming online class on what bakers can do if you're a beginner to start low and increase prices. Now, the bonus I want to share with you guys, because I've shared three reasons why you're underpricing and what to do about that. Do you price accurately? Because I'm talking about what people are talking about. How do you price? Hello from Canada. If you're wondering, how do you price accurately? Understand direct versus indirect cost. That's the first thing. Understand what direct cost is, understand what indirect cost is. I have briefly described them, but if you can find somebody who can just explain that very well, find somebody who's going to teach you what direct costs are, what indirect costs are. That's the first step, because once you understand what those costs are, you'll understand why I'm talking about pricing for profit. Second thing you want to do is factor in time and skill. So realize, depending on the type of cakes you're doing, or breads, or pastries, whatever it is, there is a factor of time, how long it takes you to bake, decorate, cool, the whole process. If it's a wedding cake, that's why wedding cakes are different, right? Because they have a different time and skill factor. Hello from Zimbabwe. So you want to factor in all those things and then price. That's another thing people don't think about. Bakers will have intermediate to advanced skills, but they're pricing their cakes at beginner skill level, which I think is very dangerous as well. That's why a lot of people will actually start business and then just kind of fall off because they're frustrated because they're not making much money, but they're getting better at whatever it is they're doing. So that's the first thing. Understand direct versus indirect costs. Second thing, factor in the time and the skill that it takes you to do whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a cake, wedding cake, cookies, brownies, whatever it is. Then now, make sure you're tracking or understanding the three key numbers that every baker needs to understand to track profit. They are three key numbers you have to understand. This is one of those things where since you chose to do business, you've got to understand these things. And what are those three numbers? Number one, cost per cake. How much does it cost you to make each cake, right? This is ingredients, packaging, labor, rent, electricity, cleaning things, marketing costs, airtime costs, Wi Fi, internet costs, all those things. Depreciation of equipment, other people call it use of equipment. How much does it cost you per cake, per cookie or per batch of cookies, per dozen cupcakes, per wedding cake? How much is it costing you? So that's the first thing you have to know. Second, numbers, or the number you have to know, your selling price and your profit margin. And those kind of go hand in hand. So you have to set a price that not only covers the costs of how much it costs you to do these things, but there's also a profit margin. So you have to understand, what's my profit margin? Am I making money? Am I wasting time in this business? Am I doing an expensive hobby? You have to know these numbers. So once you do your costing and your pricing, add a profit percent. Everybody's different and it depends on what niche you're in. But if you're a home baker or somebody who's doing custom cakes or celebration cakes, aim for like 20 to 40% profit margin. And sometimes that sounds high to people. People want to put 2%. But let me tell you, every time costs inflate a little bit, you run and you change your prices. The problem with that is that customers remove from you because every 2 months you keep changing prices. So sometimes set that 20%, or if you're starting, you can do 10 to 15, and then you can just kind of be comfortable with it for 6 months or 12 months. Of course, if inflation is crazy, you do have to change it like every 6 months, but at least set a nice price that kind of cushions you with some of these things that come at you and you're not sure. Okay. The third number you need to know is basically tracking your monthly sales and expenses. So, yes, you know how much it costs per cake, but are you tracking your expenses? Do you know every day, every week, every month how you're spending that money? You need to be tracking money coming in and out. I know a lot of bakers who like tracking just sales, and sales are great. It's good to know how much money you're making. However, you also need to understand, how much money am I using? Because you could be using 10,000 a month, but you're only making sales of 8,000 a month, which means you're making a loss. And that's okay if you're starting, but at least keep track of the loss that you're making, at least. Then you're able to actually start being particular about your expenses. Maybe you're like, okay, so maybe I won't spend this much on Wi-Fi. Maybe I won't spend this much on transport, right? So make sure you're keeping track of your monthly sales and expenses, and then you'll have an idea of how your business is running. You can use simple bookkeeping tools or even a spreadsheet, like a Google spreadsheet would be great, or a Google Excel sheet. There's so many bookkeeping tools. There is QuickBooks. There is Wave apps. If you're in Kenya, there's BayConnect. You can just use different tools to just kind of keep track of what you're doing, or even a counter book and write money in, money out, right? Excel, whatever works for you. Use it so that you're able to track what you're doing, and then you're able to know, okay, I'm making a loss. I'm making a profit, right? That's some of the things you want to do as a business person so that you can keep track of what you're doing and also what is happening, right? So if you have any questions on this as to underpricing, if you're underpricing, underpricing and you're wondering, how do I increase, especially if whatever the comment is. As I'm waiting for you guys to leave those queries, I want to mention to you guys that I have an upcoming online class. And this is a different class. I'm doing this differently. I did this in December, but for those people who are interested, this could help. This is a costing, pricing, and marketing class for bakers, and it's going to run within WhatsApp. So it's going to be a WhatsApp private group. And it's going to start from March 15th, and it's going to run till April 17th. So if you're a Kenyan baker, this class is $1,500. If you're not a Kenyan baker, this class is $15. If you've watched this live to this point and you're interested in joining the class, you can pay 1,200 shillings as a Kenyan baker or $12 as a non-Kenyan baker. All you have to do is WhatsApp and mention you want the live stream discount, right? So you only get to pay 1,200, and intake is ongoing until 16th of March. Again, this is going to run on WhatsApp, so you have to make sure you have the app on WhatsApp so that you're able to actually come on. And basically, I will be sending 2 videos each week that's going to teach you how to cost, price, and how to do digital marketing to grow your brand so that you're able to increase your prices. I also have an AI tool that I developed for costing and pricing that I tell people to use. It's really, really easy to use. A lot of people who did my class last time found costing and pricing so much easier. Now, this is not a paid tool, but the reason I don't give access in public is because I like teaching you how to use the tool. Then now you can use it after that. And you get to keep all the videos, you get to keep the tool, and you can use it even after class. So if you're interested, you can let me know. If you're on TikTok, just go to the profile to check the number. If you're on Instagram, same thing, just go to the bio. You can see the WhatsApp DM. If you're on YouTube, there's going to be a link below that's going to help you be able to just DM on WhatsApp, and you can make your inquiries or claim your discount. Since I don't see any questions, that's it for me today. I'll be doing another live tomorrow, by the way, on a similar topic. But for sure, I hope this has helped you out. You have trained in box board making. Is it better to produce this or buy wholesale? I say do the costing. Do the costing of how much it takes to actually produce the box, and then go find 2 or 3 wholesalers and tell them to tell you the price. So if I go ask the wholesalers, 3 wholesalers, the price, and then I look at how much does it cost me to make the board, and I'm talking about making the board, the materials, and the time, do the comparison. Whatever's cheaper, do that. Okay, I hope that helps you. No besutum lalazi. I hope that helps. All right. If you're on YouTube, make sure to watch the next video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.